Freedom's Foundation at Valley Forge was established to create and build an understanding of the spirit and philosophy of the nation's founding ideals as reflected in its founding documents, the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. In the Spirit of America Youth Leadership Program, we bring students from around the country here to Valley Forge for intensive, immersive, experiential education in the history and ideals and continuing relevance of the American founding. Students are here on campus typically for 4 days, but during those 4 days, they are exposed in as direct as possible a way to what it might have been like to experience the revolution as a participant, not just a spectator and not just from the vantage point of a couple hundred years later. I'm delighted to report that through the generosity of the Connolly Foundation, Freedom's Foundation at Valley Forge has partnered with the Archdiocese of Philadelphia to offer 900 students in the Catholic high schools within the Archdiocese the opportunity to receive a full scholarship to the Spirit of America Youth Leadership Program. We welcome applications from any interested students in the high schools of the Archdiocese of Philadelphia.
As Catholic institutions, it is very important for students to have an understanding of their political responsibilities. By going through this program, those students learn how to interact with one another around difficult political issues. They get to have background information that they are then able to apply to real-world situations. So they can grapple with these problems, grapple with these things that can often cause controversy, but then come to solutions, come to understandings together. We want students to continue to be actively involved in their communities. And whether that's through service or through political action or through working within the church, we want them to have a voice. We want them to know that it is actually their responsibility as a Catholic or as a moral Christian to go out into the world and to be of service and to be an active participant. And so that has always been the mission of Catholic schools. And so programs like this actually just foster that mission in a new way.
This is a 4-day program that runs in multiple sessions throughout the school year, during which students will be exposed directly and intensively to the history, ideals, and continuing relevance of America's founding. For example, you might, in a high school history course, have a section where you study some of the founding fathers, John Adams or Thomas Jefferson. Here, you're sitting in the classroom and in burst John Adams and Thomas Jefferson. They come in ignoring the students. They're engaged in a heated debate. They are good advocates for their views, which differ. And after 10 minutes or so of fierce debate, Adams will say, "Who's with me?" and ask people to, and the students are just drawn in. We never need to tell them to put down their phones. They do that without being asked. Likewise, we don't just talk about winter in Valley Forge. A lot of these programs are happening during the winter. We share a border with a property line with the National Park Service. We are immediately adjacent to Valley Forge National Historical Park. So the students go to Valley Forge, they see and hear a musket fired. They see the reconstructions of the little huts. Through these sorts of experiences, again, not just a lecture, not just a field trip, but an immersive experience, they come to sense what the revolution meant to those who fought for it. And they begin to appreciate that they themselves are heirs of the American experiment. It belongs to them as well. That for all the rights of citizenship that they've been blessed with, there are corresponding responsibilities. And they begin to learn what those responsibilities are and how to discharge them.
I've always loved history, and last year my history teacher was great, and this year I wasn't too sure about government because I thought it was all just going to be learning about like the Constitution and everything, but it's really, I think it's my favorite history class that I've ever taken, and especially coming to this program, I got to tie what I was learning in the classroom here, and also tie what I learned here in the classroom, and be able to share my experiences at school. One of my favorite parts is on our last day, we got to go to Colonial Philadelphia, and we got to go see the Liberty Bell and Independence Hall, and we had a really great tour guide who taught us all about it, like even more than I knew, and we got to see a Quaker building, and that was really cool.
You know, there are plenty of people who are quick to demand their rights as citizens. There are far fewer who are quietly willing to shoulder the corresponding responsibilities. But every one of our rights as citizens carries with it a corresponding responsibility. Now, if I want freedom to speak freely, I must accord to my fellow citizen the same right. If I want the freedom to worship freely, to exercise my faith, I need to respect the equal right of other citizens to do likewise. We inculcate in students an understanding that their rights are inextricably linked with these duties of citizenship. Foremost among those is civility, respect. It's the direct implication of the Declaration of Independence. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. This is what we teach students in the Spirit of America program.
Civil discourse is something that is necessary in all societies. It doesn't matter where or when you're talking about. I think today it is particularly important for students to be able to understand how to engage other people in conversations that are difficult but necessary. We have a moral and ethical belief system that we want our students to take forward with them. But we want them to be able to utilize that in a way that is generous and kind, but open and honest. And so learning how to speak to other people who may think differently than you is a very, very important life skill. In school, I think these skills will be utilized in a very real way. One of the things that we are working on across all of our schools is actually a socially responsible citizenship. And so all of our schools, all 15 of our high schools, are actually creating plans and implementing those plans to have students engage more, to have students be more involved in project-based learning. So that they are involved in this project-based learning, they are interacting with students from their own classes and other classes.
So what stood out for me most during this program was seeing all the other students from the different schools be there for the same reason that I was, and hearing all the different speakers because we heard CEOs from companies, we heard lawyers, and we got to even hear Thomas Jefferson and John Adams, so that was really cool. During the program, we often worked as a team. The biggest part that we worked as a team was the entrepreneurship activity that we did, and we were split into groups, and we had to design a product that solved an issue. So ours was glasses that you could adjust the zoom. So like if you were in the back of a classroom, you could be able to see the front. And it was really fun. We had to design a model just on a piece of paper, just draw it and figure out price range and how we could manufacture it.
So when students leave this program, they go back to their communities, not just with some information, but with a transformation, with a different character, with a different sense of commitment to the work of citizenship. And it starts with loving your fellow man, with realizing that your neighbor is every much as bit an heir of the American experiment as you are, regardless of whether his or her ancestors arrived on the Mayflower or arrived yesterday.
What excites me about civics is just being able to have a part of like the community and knowing that my vote matters and that I could possibly go into something that has to do with civics, like whether it's teaching government or actually being a part of the government. A change that I would want to be part of is making the world a nicer place. I feel like there's a lot of hate going on right now, and just because someone's different than you doesn't mean you can't be friends with them, and just because they have a different point of view as you. And I think making everyone just be, because we're all human in the end of the day.
The teachers and parents who will be given the opportunity to have their students or their children be a part of this need to understand the benefit of having students come together for multiple days, getting to know people from different backgrounds, getting to experience life sort of on their own, but not really because they're in safe environments, and an opportunity for them to actually engage and talk to one another, but then also have fun with one another and enjoy one another's company. So I would encourage parents and teachers to have students participate in this program, because I think what will happen is they're going to come back stronger human beings. They're going to come back and they're going to contribute things in your family and in your classroom that will benefit throughout the rest of that year and beyond.
Not only do we offer these sorts of programs for students, we offer separately programs exclusively for K-12 teachers. During the summer, we provide a series of week-long, college-accredited, graduate-level professional development programs for teachers. In these programs, we examine the nation's founding ideals not only in their own time and context, but as manifest in later episodes of American history. We give them direct access to world-class scholars and, whenever possible, to those who were part of history. We give them a professional development opportunity like no other. And I'm very happy to report that the Connolly Foundation has made available scholarships for 17 teachers from the Archdiocese of Philadelphia's schools, and we would welcome them to any of our programs this summer. To learn more, please go to freedomsfoundation.org. That's freedoms, plural, foundation.org.